A group of people's shared set of values, beliefs, practices, and behaviors is known as their culture. From a different interpretation, it is a community's distinctive way of life that is passed down through the generations. According to Belfield, culture has a strong influence on who we are and how we see the world, though it can also be interpreted to a lot of ways. Some may refer to culture as something that is usually connected to a place, like how we call the Philippine culture, while some refer to it in relation to religion or ethnic groups. Culture can also be associated with social groups and communities that are a part of a society that people live in. For example, we have pop culture. Co-cultures are undercultures. These are subcultures wherein it is referred to as groups of people who share values, norms, and practices in relation to their personal interests or their overall personality besides their nationality. With all these definitions relayed, culture is what brings a society together with unity and harmony. It is what makes a community one in nature despite the internal difference people might have. Thus, culture is not just about the said communities alone. It is about the people. It is more about the people. Without the history of the people that live together in one nation, a culture wouldn't be formed nor practiced. According to Fisk, it is about the people, what they are, and what they've carried from the past to present. The culture is deeply carried through people's veins in their everyday lives. It is an identity where they feel belongingness from a community that shares a vision that mirrors their own. People carry different stories and backgrounds. It is what makes them who they are and what they are as a unique individual. According to Luhabe, diversity is a new culture of human behavior that honors people where they are and with what they know, how they acquire this knowledge, and how they apply it. This could be different for each person. Not only that our similarities are acknowledged, we should also emphasize that our difference also create a big impact to a society with a progressing rich culture. These differences should be used to develop something from deep within. Diversity is about appreciating and utilizing these differences, not merely recognizing them. The topic of one's race, ethnicity, and nationality is often linked to a culture. Though there's a linear connection between these aspects, there's also a clear difference between those that people confuse one with the other. Race is more focused on a person's physical characteristics. It is more genetic and biological base that differentiates it from the definition of a culture. This topic has been the most controversial out of all three in the context that racial differences basing only on physical characteristics under a biological or genetic basis has been unreliable on most parts except for skin color. In this notion, race can also influence one's personality, intelligence, and competency. In the past, these arguments were used to justify present discrimination against some racial groups. In relation to culture, appreciating one's race comes first to figure out what cultural characteristics of these racial groups are present. And for nationality, as defined from the dictionary, a group of nationality is a group of people of the same race, religion, traditions, and etc. It can also be defined as an official right to belong to a particular country. Though it can be used to connect with the notion of culture, it is not necessary. On the other hand, ethnicity is widely thought of as something that is related to ancestry and heritage history. As much as it is associated with culture, it does not define a specific cultural group on that matter. Each of these can be considered as a part of your identity. But Each carries a big purpose in shaping who you are and what you are as a person. Socioeconomic status, or SES, is typically assessed by comparing a person's income, education, work experience, and occupation to those of the other people in that same community. People with more extensive education, prestigious careers, and or higher incomes than their peers are considered to be at a higher socioeconomic status than those who lack access to education or other opportunities. Those that those who are at a higher socioeconomic status are also associated with having greater privilege, power, and access to resources. And in comparison, low socioeconomic status can be associated with reduced mental and physical health as well as reduced life expectancy. People also differ in their physical and mental capabilities. Some have sensory impairments, and some require aid to walk and to get around. Some have cognitive limitations, such as those with the autism spectrum disorder or dyslexia. With this, employers refer to these cognitive variations as neurodiversity. And it is great that many employers now provide working conditions that better support their neurodiverse employees. Not just that, schools also offer programs specifically dedicated for these neurodiverse people. Sex is a biological variable that reflects whether someone is assigned male or female at birth. And on the other hand, gender is a social and psychological variable rather that characterizes a person's identity as female or male or something else. And while sex is a function of the combination of chromosomes that we inherit from our biological parents, we acquire gender through our social and cultural experiences. And we also have sexuality, who is which is also referred to as sexual orientation, that is described as a sex or sexes to which a person is romantically or sexually attracted to. Religion is an important characteristic rather of diversity because it influences so many aspects of people's lives, not just how they think, how they act, but also their food, their clothes, their way of living, and with their occupations, their political preferences, the how they use technology, how they practice marriage and other types of social acts. And religion is a big part of one's culture, with it being the most practiced of those that are under cultures. Generational identity is something that you should also consider when you're communicating with other people. Being aware of someone's generational identity is important to know how to communicate with them and how to understand them without really learning about their own biography or background. It's just that being aware of where they're coming from is enough to understand people with how they communicate towards each other. People's communication behaviors often vary according to the values, experiences, and demands of the era which they grew up in. And to understand people more when you're communicating, consider their generational identities. When you're communicating, especially online, if you're using technology as a way of communication, it is important to be aware of someone's generational identity because it does make a difference when you're using technology. Not being able to physically communicate with people tends to create um different kinds of barriers, and knowing someone's generational identity can limit those.